From Data to Dynamic Dashboard, a complete course on dashboards using form controls. Having a large number of records about countries and information divided into two lists, I cannot get any useful insights about my data unless I create a dynamic dashboard that answers questions about my data in a graphical summary that fits in one single screen so that information can be monitored at a glance. I am Nabil Murad. In this tutorial, I create a powerful dynamic dashboard. I start by creating a beautiful combination chart that shows few countries at a time, population in column chart, and density per square kilometer as a line chart. With a scroll bar, I select different countries from the source list. With a spin button, I control the number of countries represented. I can show more or less. For the countries displayed, I can get all information about a specific country by selecting an option from a combo box: population, density, land area, median age, world share. That's only part of the magic, because for any country I select, I get a map and much more information below it: capital, official language, abbreviation, calling code, minimum wage, and the GDP 2018. To add to the magic, I also get the country's flag. Everything is totally dynamic, from data to insights, all in one dashboard with form controls. Let's build it from ground up in Excel. The source data was imported from the web. I cleaned it and transformed it in Power Query to get the two lists that I'll be using for this project. I also prefer to choose only 84 countries to focus just on the concept, excluding countries with very large population like China and India for a better visibility on my dashboard. You can download the exercise file and follow along by clicking on the link below the video. You can read my step-by-step blog article with screenshots. It's a reference book for you to keep. I provided a link in the description below. In part 1 of this project, we build a combination chart and switch the source data with a scroll bar and a spin button. In part 2, I extract information for any country on the chart using a combo box and a set of functions. In part 3, I create a dynamic map and link it to the combo box and get additional information and the flag of the selected country. This long tutorial has a timestamp in the description so that you can view it and review it on multiple sittings. We have a lot to learn, so let's get started. Here is my start file. Having two sheets of the source data imported from the web, I cleaned it and transformed it in Power Query. I go to the data sheet, and here I have a list of countries, and then I have the population, the density, and some other information. I would like to start by creating a chart that represents the population and density for each country. And I'm going to start by selecting some sample records. Let's say I click and drag down to row number 15. When you have a huge difference in numbers between the two series, then the best chart that represents these numbers would be a combo chart. And to create a combo chart, I go to the Insert tab of the ribbon. I can click on the recommended charts, or I can click on this small square called the dialog box launcher. When I click on that, the Insert Chart dialog box opens. I click on All Charts, and toward the bottom of the category list, I have Combo. And you can see in the preview that the line chart is not visible until I check the box for secondary access, and I'm creating a secondary access. Now I can see my line chart. I hit OK to insert the chart, and now I want to start improving the appearance of this chart. I select the vertical axis and I want to open the Format Axis pane. I can either right-click and select it or hit the shortcut Ctrl+1. And here I want to display the units in millions. This is for the population, so I'm changing it to millions, and it reduces the width of the vertical axis. I want to apply some formatting to this axis, so I go to the Home tab. I can bump it up, let's say, to 10.5. I can bold it if I wish, and I'm going to change the color to match the column chart, so I'll make it blue. I want to format the secondary axis, so I select it, and on the Home tab, I want to bump it up to 10.5. I can bold it, and I change the color in a way that it matches the line chart. I don't need the chart title, so I select it and hit delete. I don't need the legend, so I select it and hit delete. And for these horizontal grid lines, I click on one of them to select all of them, and I hit delete to delete them. I need to make some improvement to my column chart. I click on one of the columns, it selects all the columns, and then I click on the Format Data Series pane. I click on the icon for series options, and here I want to drag the gap width slider to the left in a way that I reduce the gap between the different columns. I'll set it to 70%. I want to bring the data labels for each column, so I click on the chart element button, the green plus sign at the top right corner, and then from here I select data labels, and then I select the position for the data label inside base. The data labels are not really visible, and to improve the readability, I click on one of them to select all of them. I can make them bold if I wish, but more importantly, I want to change the color to white. My data labels are easier to read right now. I want also to make some changes to my line chart. So I select the line chart, and then I click on the fill and line, and I check the box for smoothed line. Now the line chart looks much better. I also need to change the color of the column chart to be the same exact color like my primary vertical axis. So I select it, and then I go to the Format tab of the ribbon, and on the Format tab, I click on the down arrow for Shape Fill, and from here I'll be selecting this blue color that matches perfectly the color of the vertical axis. I go back and click on the shape fill, and I want to click on more fill colors because I want to see the RGB red, green, and blue combination. So when I click on blue, I want to note these numbers 0, 112, and 192 for the red, green, and blue components. I'll be using it later. The same for the line chart. I click on it, and then I go to the shape fill, and then I click on this color, the orange color, and then I click on the down pointing arrow one more time. I click on more fill colors, and I'm looking at the numbers 237, 125, and 49. I hit OK. Now I'm ready to move this chart to the dashboard. So I select it, and then I hit Control X to cut it. I go to the dashboard worksheet, and I want to paste my chart somewhere, let's say at the top of cell B4, and then I paste Control V. I want to resize my chart, so I click and drag the chart. I'll drag it, let's say, to cell K18. I can always come back and resize my chart. I want to make further fine-tuning to my chart. I click on one of the columns. I go to the Format tab. I want to bevel these columns. Beveling is totally different than adding a 3D rotation or a perspective, which is not a good practice. Beveling just adds a nice attractive appearance to my column chart. So I click on Shape Effects, and from here I hover over Bevel, and I'll be selecting the round bevel. I don't want to see the outer border of the chart, so with the chart area selected, the outer frame of the chart, I click on the Format tab, I click on Shape Outline. I don't want an outline. One more thing I want to do, I want to bring the world map as a background to my chart, so I click on the Shape Fill, and here I go down to Picture, and when I click on Picture, I'll be browsing my computer to a picture that I downloaded from the internet, the world map. The chart background, which is the fill color of my chart area, looks nice, but to improve the readability of my chart, I want to increase the transparency. So I'm going to click on the fill bucket icon, and then from here I click on fill, and I'll be dragging the transparency slider, let's say to 60%, in a way that it doesn't interfere with the readability of my chart. After creating my chart, I don't want it to move or to be resized in case I change the column width or in case I insert or delete a column. To do that, I click on the outer border of the chart, I hit the shortcut Ctrl+1, I click on the Size and Properties tab, I expand the properties, and here I check the radio button for Don't Move or Size with Cells. Now if I change the column width, the chart will not be affected. Let's undo. I close the Format Chart, and now I'm ready to move to the next step, which is creating controls. In order to create controls like the scroll bar, the spin button, or the combo box, you need to have the Developer tab of the ribbon. I already have the Developer tab. In case you don't have it, then you can right-click on any tab and select Customize the ribbon, and the Excel Options dialog box opens. Check the box for developer and hit OK. I'm not going to do that. I'll hit cancel because I already have it. I go to the developer tab of the ribbon, and on the developer tab, I want to insert a scroll bar control. I click on the down arrow for insert in the controls group, and under ActiveX control, I'll be selecting the scroll bar control. And I start by clicking and dragging. I can always move it, resize it, and reposition it. And let's say this is the initial position of my scroll bar. I want to put it in front of row number 20, and it looks nice. The scroll bar right now is not functioning, so I need to change some properties and add functionality to my scroll bar. To do that, I can either right-click and select Properties, or on the Developer tab, I click on Properties. The Properties dialog box opens, and here I want to change the color of my scroll bar to match the column chart, and I'll be doing this by clicking on the back color, and then I click on the down pointing arrow to the right side. I have two tabs, the System Colors, and I have a palette. If I click on Palette, I want to create a color. I already added the two colors here, but in case you don't have them, I show you how to do that. You right-click on one of the white squares, and when you right-click, then it opens the defined color combination. I have the RGB color, so let's say I want the blue color. I'll be typing the RGB component 0, 112, and 192. So if I type 0, and then I type 112, and then I type 192, then I would have created the color. If I click on Add Color, I will be adding it. I'm going to close because I already have the colors, so I'll be using the color that I added previously. Click on the palette and click on the blue color. Now I change the color of my scroll bar. I need to add some functionality and link the scroll bar to one of the cells. You cannot click on a cell with this dialog box, so in the linked cell, I click in the box for linked cell, and I want to link it to cell Z1. I'll show you what happens in the functionality whenever we use the scroll bar, but I want to set the lower number and the higher number of the scroll bar, so I have a max and min. For the max, I want to set it to 68. I'll be explaining why I'm selecting 68 here, and I want to set the minimum to 1. So the lowest number returned by the scroll bar will be 1, and the highest number will be 68. Remember that number because when I create the spin button, I'll be explaining why I selected this number. When I finish, I click on the close button, and now I have a functioning scroll bar. Let me show you how this scroll bar works. I need to go out of the design mode, and when I deselect the design mode, now I can test my scroll bar. I'm going to move by clicking on the right side of the scroll bar, and now I want to go to the linked cell, cell Z1, and in cell Z1, I see the number 12. This is my preparation area. This is the kitchen where I'll be creating all the functionality that controls my dashboard. This is the place where I'll be creating all the functions that will be working behind the scene to control the functionality of my dashboard. I created the scroll bar, and now I want to create a spin button, another control. Because we already have the developer tab, I go to the Developer tab of the ribbon, and here I click on the down arrow of the Insert, and this time I want to insert an ActiveX control spin button. This is the spin button control. I click on it, my mouse pointer changes to a small plus sign, and I click and drag to create my spin button, and I want to position my spin button on top of the secondary axis. Like with the scroll bar, I need to change some properties. We are in the design mode. I click on Properties. I could also right-click and select Properties. The Properties dialog box opens. The first thing I want to do is to change the color, and I want to make it orange in a way that it matches the secondary axis. I click on the back color, and then to the right side, I click on the down pointing arrow. I go to the palette, and I showed you how to create the color. I already have it, so I select the orange color. I want to link it to a cell. So for the linked cell, this time I'll be linking it to cell Z2, and I want to set the maximum to 15, and I want to set the minimum to 1. Why am I selecting these numbers? If you remember, I set the maximum for the scroll bar to 68, and here I'm setting the maximum to 15. If you add 68 and 15, then you get 83. That's the total number of countries I have. I close the Properties dialog box, and now I want to exit the design mode, and I want to see the changes in cells Z1 and Z2 whenever I use the scroll bar and whenever I use the spin button. Instead of using the horizontal scroll bar right and left, then I'm going to create what we call a watch window. What is a watch window? The watch window works as if I'm putting a video surveillance camera to Z1 and Z2. Let's add the watch window and see it in action. I go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon. I click on cell Z1, and I want to add a watch window. To the right side of the Formulas tab, I click on Watch Window. When I click on Add, it asks me, would you like to add a watch window to the selected cell? I click on Add. I want to add a second one, so I select Z2, Add Watch, and then I hit Add, and now I can see the value for Z1 is 12, and the value for Z2 is 11. This watch window doesn't close, and it enables me to work in the background as usual. So if I go to the right, here is my watch window, and I'm watching what's happening to Z1 linked to the scroll bar. So if I click to the right side of the scroll bar, look at the value changing. If I click to the left side, the value is changing as well. What about the spin button, which is linked to cell Z2? This one will control how many columns will be visible in my chart. So if I select the spin button, now I can see the value in Z2 is changing. Let's close the watch window. What's the purpose of the scroll bar and what's the purpose of the spin button? I created these two controls because I cannot display the 83 countries on one single map. And to control the starting country, then I created the scroll bar. So when the scroll bar is returning 10, then I'm starting from country number 10. If the scroll bar returns 50, then my chart starts displaying the population from country number 50. What about the spin button? The spin button controls how many countries will be visible, how many column chart will be visible. I set the minimum to 5, I set the maximum to 15. So I can reduce the number of columns and display only 5 countries, or I can increase it up to 15. But right now, I created the two controls, but they are not linked to the chart. So what we need to do is to link the functionality of these two controls to my beautiful chart. Before I do, let's make it a lot more informative. I want to add some text boxes that show me the starting and ending country, and I want to add a text box that tells me the number of visible countries. To do that, I need to prepare. So I go to column Y. This is the kitchen where I'm preparing all the work. And in column Y, I'll be typing from country. I hit enter, and in Y2 I'll be typing visible countries. I hit enter, and then in Y3 I'll be typing to country. In cell AA1, I want to combine my label in Y1 to the value returned from the scroll bar in Z1. I can use a concat function. I can use a concatenation function. These two functions can work, but I'll make it simple and I'll be using the joining operator of Excel, the ampersand shift 7 on your keyboard. So I'll be creating a formula. I'll type an equal sign. I click on cell Y1 and I want to join it, so I type shift 7 on my keyboard, and I want to join it to a colon, so in double quotes I'll be typing colon and a space and then a double quote. I want to join it to the result of the scroll bar, the linked cell. So I type a second joining operator, Shift 7, and I click on cell Z1. When I hit enter, this is the label that will show me the starting country. We know that Z1 is returned by the scroll bar. Z2 is returned by the spin button. I want to add them up because the ending country, the to country, will be the total of these two cells. So I go to the Home tab and I want to add them up. So I click on Auto Sum and then I hit enter. So I should be displaying from 15 to 23. Let's copy the labels down because it's the same formula, so I can copy it down. But hold on a second. When I display 8 countries and I start from country number 15, I'm not ending at country number 23 because country number 15 is the first country to count. So if you add 8, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, then for the two countries, I need to subtract 1. So I click in the formula bar and I type -1. That will be the correct ending country. I created the wording for my text boxes. Now let's create the text boxes. I'm going to create my text boxes here and then move them to the left side of the dashboard worksheet in their proper position. To create a text box, I click on the Insert tab of the ribbon, and to the right side of the Insert tab under Text, I'll be selecting a text box. I click and drag to create my text box, and then I put it in the edit mode by hitting F2. When I hit F2, keep an eye on the formula bar and you will see the blinking cursor. I'll be typing an equal sign and then I click on the first cell, cell AA1, that will be my first label. When I hit enter, I would have copied the contents of cell AA1. I want to create two other labels. I can do that by copying and pasting the same text box and changing the reference. So I press Ctrl and drag to create a second text box and then Ctrl and drag to create a third one. I click on the second one and I want to change it to cell AA2. I click on the third one and I want to change it to cell AA3. Now that I created the text boxes, I want to format them. So I select the first one, I press Shift and click on the second, press Shift and click on the third one. I'll be changing the font type, so I'll be selecting this nice font, Berlin Sans FB. I want to set it to 14, and I want to change the color for two of them to blue, and I'll change the color for the third one to orange. So I'll be changing the color for all of them right now to blue. I'll be modifying the last one. I want to center my text right and left and up and down. I go to the shape format and I want to remove the outline, so I click on the down arrow for shape outline and then no outline. For the visible country, I select the text box for the visible countries, and this one should be in orange color. So on the Home tab, I change the color to orange, and I'm using the same exact orange color that I used before. Now I have my text boxes. I want to move them. I'll be selecting the three of them. I press Shift to select the three of them, Control X, and then let's move to the left side to the dashboard. I'll paste them somewhere, Control V, and now I want to move them. So I'll be moving the visible countries and position it on top of the spin buttons. And then I want to select the two other controls. The From country, I'll position it just below the scroll bar to the left side of the scroll bar, and I select the other one, the control, the To country, and I position it to the right side of the scroll bar. And because the text boxes are linked to the functionality of the scroll bar and the spin button, now I want to test the functionality. So if I click on the left pointing arrow, I see the number changing. If I click on the right pointing arrow, the To country is changing as well. What about the visible countries? So if I click to the left, now they are dynamic. If I click to the right, they are changing as well, and all the text boxes reflect the changes in my selection from the spin button and from the scroll bar. In order to link the functionality of the scroll bar and the spin button to my chart, then I need to prepare for that by creating a defined name. What will the defined name do? The defined name will be storing the countries that will be displayed on my chart. I want to start at a specific country. What's the number of the country where I want to start? I want to start at the country returned by the scroll bar. How far down you want to go? What's the number of countries that will be visible on the chart? That's the number returned by the spin button. And to do that, I start by creating a defined name. I want to store this range that will be displayed on the chart as a defined name. I want to go to the datasheet and create a defined name that stored the range from country 15 to country number 24. These are 10 countries. Let's create this defined name, and that will be the first step for linking the two controls to my chart. I go to the datasheet, and here I want to create a defined name. To create a defined name, I click on the Formulas tab of the ribbon, and I click on Define Name. The Define Name dialog box opens. I can expand it because I'll be creating a long formula here, so I'm expanding my defined name. What will be the name to use? I'm going to name it Chart List. To store a range, I click in the Refers To box, I delete the contents, and I start creating my formula that will store the range. The formula that will store the range is an offset function. The offset function is storing the range that will be used for plotting the chart. The offset function has 5 arguments. The first argument, where do you want to start? The second argument, how would you like to move the starting point up and down? The third argument, how would you like to move the starting point right and left? And then what's the height of the range? That's the fourth argument. And finally, what's the width of the range? Let's create this function. So in the refers to box, I'll type equal offset and I open bracket. What's your starting point? I will be always starting at cell A1. And then I hit come. How far down would you like to move? I don't know. I will move down to the starting country. I will move down whatever the scroll bar will be returning. So I go to the dashboard worksheet and I click on cell Z1. And then I hit come. Would you like to move the starting point right and left? No. So I hit 0 and then I hit comma. Now I'm in the fourth argument. What's the height of the range you will be storing? The height will be whatever the spin button returns. So I click on cell Z2 and then I hit comma. The last argument of the offset function, what's the width of the range? I'll be selecting the first 6 columns. So I type 6 and I close the bracket. When I hit OK, I would have created my defined name. I want to test it. So I click on Name Manager. It's the only name I have so far. We'll be creating a lot more, but look what happens when I click in the Refers To box. The range is highlighted. That's the range that will be represented in my chart. Now I want to see if this range is dynamic. Right now it's starting at Chad and it ends at Egypt. So I'm going to close. I'll go back to my dashboard and I want to change the numbers from the scroll bar and the spin button. Let's say instead of 10 countries, I'm changing the number. Let's say I'll make it 8 and I want to start, let's say, at a different country, country number 12 to country number 19. Let's go back and test. I go to the data sheet and I click on the name manager. Now if I put my blinking cursor, a different set of countries is selected that is linked to my selection from the scroll bar and the spin button. After creating the chart list named range, I want to use it for extracting these records. I'll be extracting the records that are highlighted right now. How do I extract them? I extract them by using an index function. So let's close and let's go back to the dashboard. I start by extracting the range in my preparation area, and I'll be selecting cell Y6 to create my index function. Equal index, and then I hit tab. The index function is an extraction function. It requires an array from which we'll be extracting a value at the intersection of a row and a column. What's the array? From where would you like to extract? Well, I already named the range chart list. So if I type CHA, I could see it in the IntelliSense list. I use my down pointing arrow and then I hit tab, and here is the source list where I'll be extracting from. and then I hit comma. From where would you like to extract? What's the column number and what's the row number? I want to extract at this position in Y6 at the intersection of row number 1, column number 1. So if I close the bracket, I would have created my index function. I hit enter, and that's the first value that I want to extract. But we need to make it dynamic. So I want, when I copy up and down, I want the row number to increment, and when I copy right and left, I want the column number to increment. And to do that, I'm going to use two popular functions. So I put my function in the edit mode by hitting F2. Let me delete these two numbers, and for the first number, which is the row number, I'm going to create a rows function. What does the rows function do? The rows function counts how many rows do we have in a selected range. So I'll be selecting any cell. It could be cell U1, and then I want the same cell another time, so I hit Shift colon to bring the same cell from U1 to U1. That's one single cell, so the rows function will be returning 1, and that's what I want. But as I go down, I want it to return 2, then 3, then 4. Then what do I do in this case? I put my blinking cursor in the first reference and I hit F4 to lock it. Then it doesn't change as I copy down, while the second reference will increment and it will return 1, 2, 3, 4. That's exactly what we need. I click at the end, and now I want to add the function that will increment when we copy right and left. What's the name of the function? It's the columns function. And the columns function works exactly like the rows function, but it increments as we copy right and left. So if I select U1, and then I hit Shift colon, and then I close the bracket, I want to lock the first cell reference. I put my blinking cursor and then I hit F4 to lock it. Now I want to close the bracket for the index function. When I hit enter, this is what I'm getting. Now my function can be copied all the way to the right and then can be copied down. I'm going to copy to the right. I want 6 values, so I'll be copying to cell AD6, and then I want to copy down. And when I copy down, because I want to extract a maximum of 15 records. That's the maximum number in the spin button. When I go beyond the number returned in cell Z2, the number of visible countries, the number returned from the spin button, I got a reference error. I want to fix that with the whole range selected. I put it in the edit mode by hitting F2, and I want to wrap this entire function in an if error function. So I type if error, and then I hit tab, I click at the end, I type a comma, and then what do you want if this function returns an error? I don't want anything, so I type double quote, I close the bracket, and to populate this function, I hit Control Enter. My function is working fine, but I want to bring the formatting. So I have to go to the source sheet and copy the formatting. I click on the data sheet, and then I'll be selecting the first record, and I copy the formatting by clicking on the Format Painter. I go back to the destination, the dashboard, and here I click and drag all the way down, even in the empty cells, to bring the same exact formatting. Although my scroll bar controls cell Z1 and my spin button controls cell Z2, which in return control my index function, these are the countries that will appear on my map, but so far the scroll bar and the spin button are not linked to my chart. So my next step in preparation for linking the scroll bar and the spin button to my chart, I want to prepare for that by creating some named ranges. I'll be creating 3 named ranges, and then I'll be able to link the controls to the chart. To do that, I'm going to switch to the datasheet. To create a named range, I go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon, I click on Define Name, and here I need to assign a name to the range. I'll be naming my first range Countries X, and in the Refers To box, I delete the content and I'll be creating an offset function. Equal offset, I open bracket, and I'll be starting from cell A1, that's my starting point, and then I hit comma, the second argument of the offset function, how many rows up and down would you like to move? Then I want to grab the result of my scroll bar. I go to the dashboard worksheet, and then I click on cell Z1, which is the result of my scroll bar, and then I hit comma, the next argument of the offset function, how many columns right and left would you like to move the starting point? I don't want to move it, so I type 0, and then I hit comma. I'm in the argument which specifies the height of the range to select, and the height of the range will be specified by my selection from the spin button. So I click on cell Z2, and then I hit comma. What's the width of the range? Then I type 1, it's one single column, and I close the bracket. I hit OK, and now I'm ready to create the second range. The second range will be for the columns, then I'll be creating a y-axis. The second range will be for the population. On the Formulas tab, I click on Define Name, and here I'm going to name it Population Y. In the Refers To box, I'll be creating another offset function, equal offset, and then I open bracket. What's your starting point? This time it will be cell B1, and then I hit comma. How many rows up and down would you like to move? I need to go and grab the result from the dashboard worksheet. I want to grab cell Z1, which is linked to the scroll bar, and then I hit comma. How many columns right and left would you like to move the starting point? 0 column right and left, and then I hit comma. The fourth argument, what's the height of the range? Let's grab the result of the spin button from cell Z2, and then I hit comma. The last argument, the width of the range, then I'll be typing 1, it's one single column, and I close the bracket. I would have created the second named range. The third define name will be for the density. I can click on define name on the Formulas tab, or I can use the shortcut Ctrl Alt F3. It will open the same dialog box. I'm going to name this one density Y. And in the refers to box, I want to create my next offset function, equal offset, and then I open bracket. What's your starting point? My starting point will be cell C1, and then I hit comma. How many rows up and down? I'm repeating what I did with the previous functions. I go to the dashboard worksheet, grab the result of my scroll bar, and then I hit comma. How many columns right and left? 0 columns right and left, and then I hit comma. What's the height of the range? I grab the result of my spin button from cell Z2, and then I hit comma. What's the width of the range? It's one single column, and then I close the bracket for my last offset function and my last named range. I hit OK, and I created the 3 named ranges. Let's go back to the dashboard worksheet, and let's scroll to the chart. So far, when I click on the scroll bar or when I use the spin button, nothing will happen to my chart because I didn't link them yet, and this is what I'm going to do right now. I click on the chart to select it, and then I go to the Chart Design tab. On the Chart Design, I click on Select Data. And we have 2 series. We have the population and the density. For each one of these series, we have a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. Let's start with the population. I select population, and then I want to edit the range. The Edit Series dialog box opens, and note here I have the worksheet name. I'm going to delete everything following the exclamation mark. I hit delete, and because this is the population, then I want to paste the name for population. I don't remember it, so I hit F3 to bring the paste name dialog box, and this is population Y, and then I hit OK, and another OK. Because each series has a vertical axis and a horizontal axis, then I want to edit the horizontal axis as well. While population is selected, I click on Edit for the horizontal axis, and for this one, I'm deleting everything following the exclamation mark. I hit the F3 key, and that will be the horizontal axis, countries X. I hit OK, and another OK. I finished with the first series. Now let's go with the next series. For the density, that's the line chart. I select it, and then I hit Edit. I delete everything following the exclamation mark. That's very important, leaving the sheet name. And here I hit F3. I bring the density Y, and then I hit OK, and another OK. The last step, which is an extremely important step, is to edit the x-axis, the horizontal axis, the category axis one more time. I did that for the previous series, population, and now I want to do it for the density. So I select the horizontal axis, I click on Edit, and I want to delete everything following the exclamation mark, and I hit F3. I select the name countries X for the horizontal axis, and then I hit OK and another OK. And finally, I hit the OK to close the select data source. Now we want to test, so I click outside the chart, and I want to see if it's dynamic, if it's changing. If I click to the left, my chart is dynamic. The scroll bar is controlling the starting country and the to country. And if I use the spin button, I'll be controlling how many columns am I going to see on my chart. I can make them less, I can make them more, and everything is working fine. You might have noticed that when I linked my chart to the scroll bar and the spin button, I lost some of the formatting for the columns chart. The data labels are gone and the beveling is gone. That should be always the last step, so there is no problem. We can bring them back. I'm going to bring back the beveling, and I'm going to bring back the data labels as I did before. I brought back the formatting of my column chart. I want to test one more time. And everything is working just fine. I finished part 1 of my project, but before I proceed to the second part, I want to make sure, as I did with the chart itself, I don't want my controls or my text boxes to move if I change the column width or if I insert or delete columns. So to do this, I'm going to click on the first text box. I press Ctrl, click on the second one, and click on the third one. And then I want to right click and select Format Object. The Format Shape dialog box opens. I click on the tab for Size and Properties, and here I select the radio button, Don't Move or Size with Cells. I want to do the same exact thing for the two controls, so I'll be closing the Format Shape, and in order to click on the control, I need to go to the Developer tab and turn on the Design Mode, and then I click on the control, right-click, and from here I select Format Control. I click on the Properties tab, Don't Move or Size with Cells, and then I hit OK. Finally, I select the scroll bar, I right-click, and select Format Control on the Properties tab, Don't Move or Size with Cells, and then I hit OK. Now I can turn off the Design Mode. We want to move to part 2 of this project, where I'll be creating one more control, a combo box, that displays a list of countries that appear on the chart at any time. And to do that, I go to the Developer tab of the ribbon, and then I click on the down arrow for Insert, and this time I'll be selecting a combo box ActiveX control. I want to create my combo box, so I click and drag, and let's say I'll be positioning my combo box on cell B2. Now I want to set the properties of my combo box. I click on Properties, and here I want to link it to a cell, and I'll be linking it to cell W1. I click in the linked cell box, and I'll be typing W1. And what about the values you want to see here? Well, for the values, I want whatever I extracted using my index function. I want the list of countries that I extracted. So for the list fill range, I'll be typing the range of country names in column Y from Y6 to Y21. After setting the properties for my combo box, I'm going to close the properties window and I want to test it. Now if I turn off the design mode, I click on the down arrow and here is the list of countries that I see on the chart. So what if I change by using the scroll bar? So let's say for now I'm going to select Canada. And now what if I change? I want to move to the right by using the right pointing arrow. I see a different set of countries. I want to see less. I'll be selecting 8. And here it starts at Cote d'Ivoire and it ends at Ethiopia. So if I click on the down arrow, here is the list of countries displayed on the chart. I want when I select a country, I want to extract all the information about this country. This information is coming from the datasheet, but I already extracted it by creating my index function. So I want to extract one single record and display it here at the top. And to do that, I'm going to select the labels from A1 to F1 and I'll copy them, Control C. And then I go to the destination. So I go to the dashboard worksheet and in row number 25 I want to paste the labels. After pasting the column headers, I want to extract the record corresponding to the country returned by the combo box. And to do that, I want to create a reference to the country. So I'm selecting cell X26 and I'll be typing an equal sign. I click on cell W1, which is the cell linked to the combo box, and then I hit enter. Now I can start creating my function that will extract the entire record. I can use a VLOOKUP function, I can use an index and match, and I can also use a dynamic array function, the XLOOKUP function. Let's try the XLOOKUP function, which is only available in Office 365. So under population, I'll be typing equal XLOOKUP, and then I hit tab. What's your lookup value? The country name in X26, and then I hit comma. Where do you look for it? I look for it in column Y. I select the entire range from Y6 down to Y21, and then I hit comma. What's your return array? My return array starts at Z6 down to AD21, and then I hit comma. If not found, what would you like to return? Nothing, double quote, and then I hit comma. Are you looking for an exact match? I type 0 for exact match, and then I hit comma. I'm looking from first to last, so I type 1. The last two arguments could be omitted. When I hit enter, the XLOOKUP function spills to the adjacent cells, and I extracted the entire record. I want to copy the formatting, so I go to the data sheet, and I'll be selecting one single record. I click on the Format Painter to copy the formatting, back to the dashboard, and I want to paste the formatting, so I click and drag to format the entire extracted record. Why did I do this? I did that because I want to see the data of the selected country returned by the combo box on top of my chart. How do I do this? I select the entire range, the column headers, and the extracted record, and I copy them. Control C to copy. I go back to my dashboard, and then on top of the chart in cell C1, I'll be pasting the record, Control V. But I don't want to paste the values. I want to paste it as a linked picture. So if I click on the options tag, and then I click on the down arrow, and I go to the last option in the last row, linked picture, when I click on that, I get a linked picture. I can resize my picture the way I like. Maybe I need to move my combo box if I need, but let's say for now, I'm going to resize it and I'm going to move it a little bit down so that it doesn't obstruct the text box. I can also move my text box if I want. You can position the text box and the linked picture however you like. Now it's time to test the functionality. So let's review the functionality of the scroll bar. I want to start from country, let's say number 8, or maybe I want to move to the right. I want to start from country number 40. I want to see more, so I click on the spin button to show more countries. If I want to see less, I click on the left side of the spin button. Now let's test the combo box. So if I click on the down arrow for the combo box, and let's say I'm selecting Mexico, I get all the information related to Mexico, and the functionality is working fine up to this point. We need to create a nice text box, like a label for the entire dashboard. I click on the Insert tab, and then I click on the down arrow for text box and select text box. We need to create a text box that reads countries of the world, statistics and insights. I'm going to apply some formatting. I'm using a dark blue color for the title. I'm centering it. I don't want a border shape outline, no outline. I don't want my title to move, so I right-click Format Shape, go to Properties, Don't Move and Size. And then I go back to the Home tab. I want to center it right and left. And I position my title, and I close the Format Shape. And I finished creating the second part of my dashboard. I finished creating parts 1 and 2 of my dashboard. Feel free to move, resize, and reposition the different elements however you like. For part 3 of our project, we need to bring a map for the selected country, and we need to bring some information along with the flag of the selected country. So I move to the right side of the dashboard worksheet where I'll be creating my map, then I move it to the dashboard. I need to create a map for the selected country, then I need to select the labels, and for the map chart functionality to work, I must be selecting a series. So I select the header, and I select the country and the population. I go to the Insert tab of the ribbon, and on the Insert tab in the Charts group, I click on Map. I click on Filled Map, and automatically the map of the selected country, which is currently Mexico, pops up. I'll be applying some formatting, and to start I want to select the style. On the Chart Design tab, in the Chart Styles group, let's apply the style number 4. I select the legend. I don't want it, so I hit delete. I select the chart title. I'm going to delete it because I'll be creating a dynamic chart title. And then I want to add some data labels. So I click on the chart element button, the plus sign in the upper right corner. I go to data labels. I don't want the regular data label, which is the population. So I click on the little triangle, and I'll be selecting more data label options. The Format Data Labels pane opens, and I check the box for category name. I close the Format Data Labels pane. I select the label, and I want to format it, so I go to the Home tab. I can bump it up, and I can bold it. And I select the matching font. After formatting the font for the data label, the final thing I want to do is to right-click and select Format Chart Area. And in the Format Chart Area pane, I click on Size and Properties tab and select the radio button, Don't Move or Size with Cells. Now I'm ready to move my chart, so I drag it and position it and resize it in place. After resizing and repositioning my chart, I want to create a dynamic chart title, so I have to prepare for it. The dynamic chart title will tell me for the selected country, the country that is reflected on the map, what's the population number and what's the percentage of the world population. So we need to prepare for that. I go to my preparation area. So I move to the right side of the dashboard worksheet, and then I'll be selecting a destination. Let it be cell X31. And in X31, I'll be combining some text with some cell references. How can I combine them? I can use the concatenation function. I can use the concat function, which is a relatively new function, and I can use the joining operator Shift-7 on my keyboard. Let's create this title. I'm in cell X31. I type an equal sign, and in double quotation, I'll be typing total population of, and a space, and I close the double quotation. Then I use the joining operator Shift-7 on my keyboard, and then I click on the country name. The country name is in cell X26. If you want to see what this will be returning, let's hit enter and see. total population of Mexico. So if I change my selection from the combo box, then the name of the extracted country will change and my title will change as well. Let's put the title in the edit mode. So I hit F2 and then I want to join another time. So I type an and symbol, Shift 7 on my keyboard, and in double quote, I'll type a space, is, and a space, and I close the double quotation. I want to join it to the population. So I type an and symbol, Shift 7 on the keyboard, and I click on Y26. This is the population of the selected country. If I hit enter at this point to see what it returns, then it's returning the population and it's not formatted. I want to format it, so I have to include cell Y26 in a function that takes care of formatting. Let's put our formula in the edit mode by hitting F2. Y26 is returning the population. I want to format it, so I wrap it in a text function. What does the text function do? The text function will take the contents of Y26. I type comma. The second argument is how would you like to format it? I need to use a custom format. The custom format must be included in double quotes. So I type double quotes, number sign, comma, number sign, and then comma, and then 3 zeros. I close the double quotation, and I close the bracket for the text function. What does it mean, number sign? The number sign means you can have a number at this location. What does the 0 means? This is another code. It means you must have. So the difference, you can have for the number sign, you must have for the 0. So when I hit enter, this is how it looks like, and it's nicely formatted. I want to continue building my function. So I hit F2. I want to move to the next line. How do I push the text that comes next to another line? I need to use the character number 10. Character function 10 moves the text that comes after it to another line. So I type an and symbol and I type char. That's the char function. The char function takes a number and returns a character or a symbol. And character number 10 means move whatever comes next to the next line. And I join it. So I type another joining operator. And I want to type some more text. So in double quotes, I type a space. It represents space and double quote. And then I want to join it to the percentage of word population. The world share is in cell AC26, and then I want to join it to another piece of text. In double quotation, I type a space of the world, and then exclamation mark. I close the double quotation, and let's have a look at our title. When I hit enter, it represents 0.0165 of the word. I lost the formatting. How do I bring back the formatting? I need to wrap AC26 in a text function. Let's put it in the edit mode one more time. So I hit F2 and then I click before the AC26 and I want to wrap it in a text function. So I type text and I hit tab. After AC26, I type a comma and the formatting this time will have a code. In double quotation, I type number sign 0.00 and percent, and don't forget to close the double quotation. I close the bracket for the text function, and when I hit enter, I would have created my dynamic chart title. You might wonder, so I don't see that the character function pushed the text to another line. This will appear when I reference this function in a text box. Let's do that. I go to the Insert tab of the ribbon. I click on the down arrow for text and select text box. I want to create a text box that refers to this text. So after dragging to create the text box, as we did before, I hit F2. My blinking cursor appears in the formula bar. I type an equal sign and click on this cell. When I hit enter, I should see my dynamic title appearing on 2 rows. We need to apply some formatting, get rid of the outline, remove the fill, and adjust the font type, size, and color. I'm changing the font color to dark blue to match the dashboard title. Now I want to move this title to its final destination on top of my map. My next step is to create some labels in preparation of extracting some data from the flags worksheet and from the data worksheet. I'll be creating these labels in column N, and I'll be applying a matching formatting. I created the labels in column N, capital, language, abbreviation, and calling code. Now I need to extract this information in column O. Where do I find this information? I find it in the data worksheet. Here is the abbreviation, the capital, the calling code, and the language. So I can create a VLOOKUP function, an index and match, or I can use an XLOOKUP function. I go to the dashboard worksheet. I select the first cell, O18, that corresponds to the capital, and I'll be creating my XLOOKUP function, equal XLOOKUP, and then I hit tab. What are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for the country name. Where do I find the country name? We already extracted it by the combo box, which is linked to cell W1. So let's click on cell W1. That's the country I selected, and then I hit comma. Where is the lookup array? The lookup array is the country name in the datasheet from A2 to A84. So I go to the datasheet. I select from A2 down to the end. I hit Shift Control down arrow, and then I hit comma. What's the return array? The return array is the capital column, and in this case, it's column H. So I select the first capital, and then I hit Shift Control down arrow. I close the bracket, and then I hit Enter. I'm back, and I extracted the capital. And because the other functions are exactly the same, but I'm just changing the column for the return value, so I'm selecting this function. I click and drag in the formula bar, and I select it, and I copy it, Control C. I hit Escape, I go to the next cell and I paste, I go to the next cell and I paste, I go to the next cell and I paste, and I'm going to modify the return array. For the language, I hit F2 to put it in the edit mode, and here I need to change the H and I'll make it J. And for the abbreviation, I need to change the return array to column G. I put it in the edit mode and I change it to column G. And finally, for the calling code, I want to change the return array. I hit F2 and I change it to column I. I extracted part of the information, but here in the gray zone, I need to see the minimum wage and the gross domestic product 2018, the GDP 2018. Where do I find this information? I find it on another worksheet, on the flags worksheet. This came from a different website. I could have merged them in one single table if I want, but for the functionality of the flag, I meant to keep it on a separate table, and I'll show you why in a moment. To get the minimum wage, I'll be using a VLOOKUP function, and to get the GDP 2018, I'll be using another VLOOKUP function. We need to bring this data to the dashboard worksheet, and I'll do that in the preparation area. I go to the dashboard worksheet, and in the preparation area, I'll be extracting the minimum wage and the GDP 2018 for the selected country. So I type equal VLOOKUP, and I hit tab. VLOOKUP of cell W1, and I lock it by hitting F4, and then I hit comma. Where is your table array? I go to the flags worksheet, and I select the entire top row from A to D. I extend my selection Shift Control down arrow, and then I lock it by hitting F4, and now I hit comma. What's your column index number? From which column you need a return value? Then for this one, I need from column 3, that's the minimum wage, so I type 3 and then comma. Are you looking at an exact match or an approximate match? I'm looking at an exact match, so I can select false or I type 0. I close the bracket and then I hit enter, and here is the minimum wage for Mexico. I need to extract the GDP, which is one column to the right. Let's look at the flags worksheet. This one is column 3. I want to extract from column 4, so no problem. I can simply copy the same formula down. So if I click and drag and copy it down, now I just need to modify the column index number. I hit F2, and instead of 3, I can type 4. When I hit enter, that's the gross domestic product for 2018. We need this information to appear on our dashboard, and to do that, I'll be creating 4 text boxes, 2 for the labels and 2 for the values. Let's create these text boxes. First of all, I start with the labels. I go to the Insert tab. I click on Text and click on Text Box. I'll be creating the first text box. Here I'll be typing minimum wage. I format it as I did before. I copy it by pressing Ctrl and dragging, and I change the text. I position them in place, and now I create 2 text boxes for the values. I hit F2, I type an equal sign, and click on the minimum wage cell W3, and then I hit enter. Format it the way you like. And let's create another text box for the GDP. Now I want to position the 2 text boxes in place. That's the minimum wage, and this one is for the GDP. I want to select the 4 text boxes and make some fine adjustments. So I press Ctrl and click on each one of them. And then I go to Shape Format, click on the down arrow for Align, and then Align Center. And then I click on the down arrow for Align and Distribute Vertically. Now I have them perfectly positioned. We need to move to the last part of this project, bringing the flag of the selected country. I need to create a text box for the country name. Insert tab, text box. Click and drag to position. Hit F2, type an equal sign, and then click on cell W1, which is the country name. Then I hit enter, and then I format the text box the way I like. I want to match the dashboard title, so I select the text box for the dashboard title. I click on the Format Painter, and then I want to paint the formatting, and I get the same exact matching format. The final thing in this place, in the lower right corner of my dashboard, I want to bring the flag of the selected country. To bring the flag of the selected country, I need to go to the Flags worksheet. And on the Flags worksheet, for each country, I have the corresponding flag in column B. Note 2 things: that for each cell in column B, I have the flag perfectly positioned on top of the corresponding cell, leaving a little white space all around. In order to be able to bring the flag when I select a country, I need to name the cell upon which the flag is sitting using the country name. So for the first one, I need to use the name in cell A2. Let's say if I go down for this cell, Argentina, then I need to name the cell in column B, Argentina as well. Instead of doing this manually, I'm going to do it for all the cells, for all the countries in one single go. I do that by selecting cell A2, and then I press Shift and use the right arrow on my keyboard to select cell B2. I need to expand my selection to the whole range, so I hit Shift Control down arrow, and I'm selecting all the country names in column A and all the corresponding cells upon which the flags are sitting in column B. I want to name all of them in one single go. I can go to the Formulas tab and click on Create from Selection. Alternatively, I can use the magical shortcut Ctrl-Shift-F3. Here Excel is asking me, would you like to use the labels in the left column for naming each individual cell in column B? Yes. The moment I hit OK, I would have created 83 country names. Let me check. If I click on the down arrow, and let's say I'm selecting Canada, now automatically the cell upon which the flag of Canada is sitting is now selected. Having done that, I'm ready to bring the corresponding flag to the lower right corner in the right position on my dashboard. To do this, I need to select any one of the flags, whichever flag you like. I'm selecting the flag of Canada. I copy it, Control-C, and then I go to the dashboard and I'll be pasting in place. Control-V, and I paste it. You can resize it the way you like, but right now, this flag doesn't change when I change my selection from the combo box. In order to make it dynamic, I want to tell Excel, whenever I change my selection from the combo box, then my selection for cell W1 will change as well. All the information will change. I want this flag as well to change. To do this, I need to create a named range. I want to tell Excel that the name you see in cell W1 is indirectly a named range matching what you see in W1. What does that mean? Let's create a named range. On the Formulas tab of the ribbon, I click Define Name. I want to give a name to this range, my flag. What does it refer to? It indirectly refers to W1. So I don't want the text you read in W1. I want the named range, and that's why I want the named range that matches W1. So I'll be typing in the refers to box equal indirect. I open bracket and click on cell W1, and I'm done. So now the named range, my flag, will be returning the named range of the selected country. When I hit OK, I would have created the named range. Let's go to our dashboard. Select the flag. Hit F2. Type an equal sign in the formula bar. And now I want to use the named range, my flag. I hit Tab. And the moment I hit Enter, I would have extracted the flag of Mexico. Now let's test and enjoy the functionality. If I click on the down arrow of the combo box, this time I'm selecting Morocco. Here is the map of Morocco. Here is the information related to the country I selected and the extra information, the capital, the language, the abbreviation, the calling code, the minimum wage, and so on. What if I test by using the scroll bar? So I want to move the country. I'm selecting a different country. Let's select this time Japan. I click on the down arrow and select, let's say, Japan. Automatically here is the map of Japan. If I click on the down arrow and select, let's say, Italy for this one, if I select Italy, now I can see the flag of Italy, the map of Italy, and all the information related to the country I selected. I can see less countries. I can use the spin button. I can increase the number of countries by using the right side of the spin button. All the functionality is working fine. All my controls, the scroll bar, the spin button, the combo box, all the text boxes are dynamic. My map is dynamic, and the flag is dynamic as well. And we finished creating our dashboard. If you enjoyed this course, give it a thumbs up. There are more amazing courses to come, so make sure you subscribe to my channel to be notified when these free courses are posted, and ring the bell to be eligible for a certificate of completion for the upcoming courses. The best is yet to come. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.